This video is brought to you by Incogni. We have some major breaking news. Donald Trump just announced that he is straight up giving up on all of his trade deals, meaning he uprooted global trade, put America in a really precarious, dangerous position, and is now taking the most lazy approach possible. So in this interview this morning with Maria Bartiromo, Trump tries to desperately avoid confronting any of his admin's failures over the past week and over the past 6 months. Like, he's cut 0 trade deals with any countries. He's ended 0 wars. More wars have started, and it seems like this, war with Iran will continue to escalate in 5 or 6 months down the road when we inevitably strike them again with Israel. Throughout all of this, what really stood out in this interview to me was Trump's admission near the end of the interview that rather than continuing negotiations with any of the countries he's uprooted trade with, he's simply going to send letters en masse to all of these countries, just ending the negotiations in a reckless, lazy way. This was never the art of the deal. We always call it the art of the kneel on this channel, but this is like a new level of laziness for Donald Trump. So I want to talk about this, but I also want to start off talking about the big ugly bill. I want to give a really full, comprehensive view of the news today, and I can't do that without starting with this big ugly bill and the effects that it has on everyday Americans. If you love the comprehensive breakdowns, make sure you subscribe to the Mockler feed below. Regularly, YouTube tends to promote right-wing content relentlessly, so we are now trying to build a counter to that so we can punch back, and subscribing and liking helps a lot. Love you all, and let's check this out. This says, from John Favreau, shocking how bad this bill is. 17 million Americans would lose health care, 30% higher electricity costs, millions of manufacturing and construction jobs destroyed, biggest ever cut in food assistance for families, kids, veterans, $4 trillion in deficits, $1 trillion in tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires. People should be on the phones, in the streets, and telling everyone who will listen. We will relentlessly be messaging about this bill because last night the Senate voted to push it forward, meaning there are other procedural votes that have to happen. It has to go back to the House afterwards, but the bill is one step closer to being passed, which is absolutely terrifying. Trey Easton says, it's pretty hard to put into words from both a policy and fiscal standpoint the generational harm that this bill is going to do to our country. Jeff Stein says, the Senate GOP tax bill is estimated per Budget Hawks to add $4 trillion to the debt, or $5 trillion if provisions are made public. When Donald Trump started off the interview, he was talking about Iran making no sense, and then he began talking about the big, beautiful bill. Here's him talking about enrichment regarding Iran, saying maybe the most incoherent thing I've ever heard a president say, which is impressive at this point.
And we just about had it done, and then they said, we want enrichment. Enrichment doesn't mean like air conditioning, and it doesn't mean to jack up your car. Enrichment is a bad word.
Am I missing something here, or is he missing something here? What does he mean enrichment doesn't mean air conditioning? He's like so dumb, it's looping back around to making me wonder if I'm dumb at this point. What are you talking about, enrichment and air conditioning? Here is Trump saying they officially have a buyer for TikTok, but then he says he'll announce the buyer in guess how much time? Not 1 week, not 3 weeks, but he says the 2-week line.
We have a buyer for TikTok, by the way. I think I'll need probably China approval, and I think President Xi will probably do it.
Who's the buyer?
I'll tell you in about 2 weeks.
A big technology company there.
Yeah, very, very wealthy people. It's a
2 weeks is code for it's never goddamn happening. Here is Donald Trump talking about China. China, according to Maria Bartiromo, has been hacking into our telecom system, stealing intellectual property, fentanyl, COVID, all of this stuff, which is true, yet Trump is weak on them. And Trump's response is basically, well, we're no better than they are. We do the same things to them. It's the worst response. Just listen.
But they are paying substantial tariffs.
Well, I noticed that because it seems like you go so far with China, but you don't sort of use the leverage that you can use. I mean, look.
If I ever had to use it, I'd use it. But when there's no reason to use it, that's good too.
Well, we did just arrest 3 or 4 Chinese nationals who tried to bring a pathogen into the country that gets people sick and destroys food supply.
Yep.
We've got hacking.
You don't know where that came from, though. I mean, did that come from the country, or is that 3 wackos that happened to carry something? You just don't.
Well,
You would know where that came from if you did your daily press briefings, dude.
There was one that he signed that he would be, one of them signed a paper saying that he would value Mao Zedong's value system.
Yep.
So there was that. And then they hacked, and they hack into our telecom system. They've been stealing intellectual property. Fentanyl, COVID, I mean, you know, all of this stuff. So how do you negotiate with obviously a bad actor and trust them on economics?
You don't think we do that to them?
What kind of answer is that? Look at his smug smile after. Tom says, President of the United States thinks that America is no better than the worst countries in the world. What is your response here, Trump? You're saying we're no better than them. Like, you're saying the U.S. casually engages in tactics that essentially not only sabotage their businesses, but float drugs through their country and pathogens. I mean, yes, I'm sure we do some sort of spying on China, but this is next level. This takes us back to the bill. This shows how corrupt everything is. Will Stancil said, want to see how corrupt the GOP is? Well, Lisa Murkowski from Alaska didn't like new cuts to federal programs. So Republicans just said, okay, we'll exempt Alaska from the cuts. And so she voted for the cuts for everyone else, for all the other countries. They'll cut your benefits, just not their own. And read this excerpt from an article. It reads, a new provision allowing, quote, individuals in a non-contiguous state to be exempt from enforcing new work requirements imposed on SNAP, formerly known as food stamps, appeared aimed at mollifying Miss Murkowski of Alaska. So spineless, so toothless. Her state would be hit with billions of dollars in nutrition assistance costs as a result of the legislation, as she had cited the provision as one of her chief concerns. So, rather than advocating against this and saying, hey, we shouldn't take food assistance away from people across the country, that's messed up, she says, why don't you just make an exemption for my state? Then I'll vote for it. It's like so evil. The bill also includes new health provisions designed to benefit Alaska, as well as new tax benefits for fishermen in the state's waters. Just straight up evil right there. Here is Markwayne Mullen being confronted on this bill being political suicide.
In the most recent polling in the bill, 59% of voters say they oppose it. And Elon Musk posted yesterday that the bill is, quote, political suicide for the Republican Party. Do you think this legislation could cost Republicans in the midterms, Senator?
No, well, let's unpack some of the stuff you said. What the CBO was talking about was actual bring home pay. When you start talking about the child deduction or the child deduction that we actually doubled, when you start talking about the taxes that they are going to see the increase, plus you start looking at the increase in wage bring home, that's where we get the 10,000. CBO, what you're talking about specifically is just the extension of the tax cuts. So there's a lot of other factors to play in there. As far as Elon Musk goes, listen, I respect Elon. I think he's right for his opinion, but he just doesn't know. And so I have to disregard that. What we're doing is delivering for the American people, and they know that. So if you look at any polling in the red states, especially where President Trump won, which he won the red states overwhelmingly, President Trump is popular, and the bill is extremely popular.
It's not, though. You have to cherry pick and say you look in certain deep red states. Even if you look at deep red states, it's not popular.
Other polls can be, as you know, can be decided by what demographic you want to poll. And I imagine if they were to go poll blue states, well, the bill probably wouldn't be popular there.
I mean, the bill's not going to be popular anywhere when people get the reality of it, which we've been trying to spread. I don't want to do the whole I told you so thing, but when there are $4 trillion in tax cuts that add to our deficit, and in order to make sure they don't add to our debt that much, we are doing, $1 trillion in Medicare cuts. That is absolutely cruel. And this brings me on to the final topic. This is Trump admitting that he is straight up giving up on all of the trade deals by sending letters to countries en masse. Now, we thought Trump abandoned diplomacy in his first week when he basically declared war, like economic war on the world. But now him saying, I'm just going to send letters to end these Liberation Day tariffs is absolutely insane. It's a new level of abandoning democracy. It's not just lazy, it's like weak to the highest extent. Rather than continuing to fight for American interests through negotiation, he's just like, I'm too tired. I'm going to default to blanket threats against every country, hoping that this intimidation does the work that real diplomacy usually ends up making up for. But he doesn't have the diplomatic means that Biden had or that Obama had. He's not a tough negotiator. That's why he can't renegotiate the JCPOA with Iran, the Iran nuclear deal that Obama negotiated. He had to pull us out of that Iran nuclear deal and doesn't have a backup. So he knows this plan is disastrous. Listen to this.
And then I help China. So by reducing it.
We still don't know. We don't have the clarity on what you're going to do with these expiration of these pauses. July 9th.
No, I thought I just said it. No, I thought I just said it. You ready?
You're going to send the letters.
I'm going to send letters. That's the end of the trade deal. I could send one to Japan. Dear Mr. Japan, here's the story.
Dear Mr. Japan.
You're going to pay a 25% tariff on your cars, So we give Japan no cars. They won't take our cars, right?
Why didn't you just do this months ago? Not that I want him to do these, en masse tariffs again, but you keep going back and forth between July 9th is the deadline where we have massive tariffs, or we might not actually do them, or we're just going to send out letters en masse with permanent tariffs. He's been playing this game for months and months, and now it's gotten to the point where the markets don't even react. Throughout all of this, the markets over the past 5 business days were just up, not because the economy is ripping, but because nobody believes Trump anymore, and that's scary when nobody believes the president. Either way, if you made it this far in the video, drop a like, comment, hi Adam, I love you all. And really quickly, let me tell you a story. When I first started to gain momentum on YouTube, I started to get all of these random spam calls on my phone. They started to increase and increase and increase. Then I got signed up for a random MAGA newsletter. So I realized that my phone number had been harvested somewhere online and it was being taken advantage of. That is when I turned to Incogni. Incogni is like hiring a digital bouncer for all of your information. They go to data brokers and they go up and they say, yo, get my data out of there. They legally demand that they delete your information, not just once, but on an ongoing basis. I realized that over 120 different websites had my information stored in some capacity, so I used Incogni, I used them as my bouncer, my attack dog, and with the unlimited plan, they went and got it removed. So now, if you get the unlimited plan, you can go a step further. You can literally send Incogni a link to any site that has your personal data, like those creepy search engines or reverse search websites, and they'll handle it for you. You can go to incogni.com/Mockler and use code Mockler to get 60% off the annual plan. One more time, if you click on the first link in the description, that is 60% off the annual plan. I want to give a huge thank you to Incogni. They have helped stop the data brokers from harvesting my data. And I want to give a huge thank you to you guys. Click the top link in the description. Thanks for watching the video, and peace out.